Hello, good people. Welcome back to the channel. Serve your time. Today, you'll notice that there's a change in, the name of the title, or rather the channel name, and this has something to do with the topic for today, because this episode is inspired by my good friend Mark. Shout out to Mark for very interesting conversations we had yesterday. And so the title of the channel today is basically, do you know, or what is your reality clock, or you can say Proctor. Now, first of all, before I even dive in, there was a how did we get to the name changing from serve your time to serve your time. So I was chatting with Mark. Mark is a friend I've known for, I think, over a decade now, right? And Mark was like, hey, I like your content, because we are talking, among others. In the end, we end up talking about, the channels. Like, man, your content is good. What you're doing is great out there. It's inspirational. But, somehow, it's like, I'm like, okay, so when was the last time you watched, Along the way, it had to go back to the channel to check out the content. It's like, oh, wait a minute. What do you mean serve your time? I'm like, but Mark, you were one of the first people, when I actually did the very first video, who in fact commented like, yeah, but I did not think about Nini. Serve your time. Are you trying to like, for lack of better say, are you trying to like say I'm a prisoner, I'm a convict? Are you inspiring convicts or what? I'm not serving my time. What do you mean? So I was like, okay, so you mean that the first thing that comes, the first impression would make you feel like, you're a convict, or you're serving your jail time, and I'm trying to motivate you like, no, man, you have to change, no. So I'm like, okay, but do you understand why the channel is called Serve Your Time? Like, oh yeah, okay, lay it on me, So I had to go back to explain to him, that this channel is all about, trying to speak into purpose, a life purpose, because, everyone has a reason for being on this planet Earth, So it could be anything, if you're an artist, right? That is your purpose, because if you do what you do on a daily, you are effectively serving your time. So for me, the channel has always been about asking ourselves, while we do what we do, while we're living our purpose, right? How are we effectively ensuring that we're not just going through life, are we making the world a better place? Because again, at the end of the day, it's all about humanity, and it's all about how we can either inspire or just contribute, because eventually we don't live to die, right? We just have to enjoy the most we can, but it takes one human to do what they do to have a contribution. If it's a doctor, they're contributing because health is important. If it's a lawyer, like in my case, people need to live in harmony. So that's the purpose for the law. And by doing that, I'm serving my time. So anyway, so I'm like, okay, so what do you propose? So I'm like, okay, maybe you can use the word suave. Like, okay, let's see the suave. So like, we looked at the word suave, like, okay, suave has an element of dodging. In Nairobi, in Kenya, we'll have to say cornering. So I'm like, man, are you trying now? Are you moving from prison time to now being a dodgy you know, you're dodgy, you're either a con man or a criminal. No, that can't work. I said, okay, okay, now let's work with surf. Well, okay, so we looked into surf. So because the initial instinct was, why do these buses always come time me when I'm actually shooting my videos? It doesn't make sense, you know. But anyway, it's I guess every mistake in art is a design, right? Every so bear with me. Anyway, so we looked at surf, and actually I discovered that surf, whereas the first instinct, you know, that comes to mind would be, you know, the ocean sport, right? Navigating the waves and you know, and being able to enjoy, you know, the sport on water. However, but when we did a deep dive, we realized, okay, because when you're in the moment, okay, of surfing, now the actual activity of surfing, when you are navigating or you know, timing or playing with the wave, in a way, it's challenging, right? And actually, I just asked myself, isn't that what life is all about? Because I think every day, you know, we just riding that wave, right? You know, because in the serving of your time, you'll find yourself having to navigate, okay, these waves, and some of them could be so heavy. In many cases, you'd find actually people having to run away and, you know, being rescued, you know, from these heavy waves or tides, right? So I'm like, okay, this makes sense actually, because it is one thing to serve your time in the context of your life purpose, but the reality of doing it in itself has multiple waves, you know, and it makes sense because I think in the moment of serving your time, you're actually surfing. I was like, perfect, you know, this makes perfect sense, and I didn't even think twice. Literally, like in seconds, the title changed because it was perfect. Of course, I was motivated by feedback from my friend who knows me better, but also is one of my biggest critics. He would tell me, he would not sugarcoat me, he would tell me what I don't want to hear, you know? So, like, okay. So that's how we arrived at Surf Your Time. But anyway, that speaks into the change of, you know, the title, and that was important for me to to explain. For those that, especially if you've been following the channel, you know, before you get confused, right? But having said that, we'll just jump into today's topic. And again, if you're new to the channel, please subscribe if you find the content relatable, share, hit that notification button. There's no harm in sharing. I mean, if there's one person, as I already said, that would find this message quite inspirational, that's all that matters, you know. In fact, today I met a guy called Musa. I call him Pogba. If you're listening out there, shout out to you. Perhaps you know, you would, you know, pick. This guy was so inspired by, you know, the fact that I'm running a channel, and the discussion we had, which is not today's topic though, but you know, it was about, for him, I think we spoke about, you have to believe it to say it, because that's what I do. That's my mindset. But again, this relates to this channel. So anyway, subscribe, share, and you never know, you know, someone out there would probably find it useful. You could, you know, inspire someone. Give us feedback. Have the notification button on, and let us try to make, you know, the world a better place as much as we can by serving our purpose, you know, serving our time. So as you could see from the title, Today we will be speaking about reality and the protector. I have sometimes issues with some of the pronunciations, but I think it's called practor. It's just like a semicircle. The other names would be, I think, hemisphere. But the point is, it's all about reality and the aspects of reality. So back to my conversation with Mark. So Mark is like, okay, so we spoke in the middle of our conversation before he got back to the channel, the name, because that was a distraction for you to understand why we're here. He's like, we're discussing a business idea, and along the way, there were some propositions. So I quickly moved into the action end of things. So I asked him, okay, perfect, sounds good, all right, so how do we get to make it happen? What variables are at play? Like, hold on, Richard, wait a minute, what happened to you, man? The guy I knew a decade ago, you've become more pragmatic than optimistic. Man, this is great. This is like a 360. When I first met you, because when we met Mark, he was a kid from university, just came back to Africa, having studied out there. And I remember he was actually one of the first investors in our business, Non-Afrique, the tech company. At the time, I think Mark raised about 200,000 Kenya shillings, which is about $1,500 or thereabout. This was like just a kid from university. He's just so inspired. There was a lot of freshness in the Pan-African, having lived in the US for quite some time. And, the Non-Africa idea then and even now was mind-blowing. So like, man, when I met you, you were extremely optimistic, right? Hey, but now, hey, you cutthroat, man. You're so pragmatic, So I'm like, okay, let's do a deep dive. What do you mean? So we jumped into the conversation and like, oh, this is interesting. So today, I said, okay, I think there's a very interesting lesson here for all of us. So, let me just put it out there. And again, I would want you to ask yourself, in your journey, in your life journey, as you serve your purpose, where are you on the reality clock? Okay. Where are you, okay, on the reality protractor? And this would inform where you want to be based on where you've come from. Because like I said, I've already said before in my videos, the past is a history. You can never change the past. Okay? The present is the moment. That's where we are right here, right now. That's where we are right there, right now. The future is a mystery. We don't know. But we have to live life, okay, being mindful of the history, the past, bringing lessons from the history into the present, the moment, while at it, seeing how we can plug the harvest from the present, the moment, into the future, the mystery. The circle continues, right? So, in that same chain of thought, I want you to imagine, a same circle, a protractor, a hemisphere, right? Remember when you're doing math in primary, or think of a car speedometer, right? Now think of the clock arrow. You'll see from the you'll see from the picture on this episode. Now the entire shape, right? The entire semicircle, right? Is our reality. That's what it is. But at the extreme left, okay, you have, and this is my perception, and this is how I see life, and this is drawn from this conversation with Mark. You have at zero, you have, the optimistic mindset. Okay. Move up, in the middle, you have the pragmatic, mindset. Once you do the 180, at 180, down there, okay, you have the pessimistic mindset. Now, just to throw a bit of more deep dive in this, because personally, right, I'm a very optimistic person. For me, there's no such thing as an impossibility. In fact, and that's my life. That's what it is. Everything is possible. There's nothing that I can't do. And I've always tried to understand how and why I am like that, but I guess again it comes, so many factors come into play. Maybe my childhood, losing a mother at a very young age put me in that sort of position, switching from a kid who was very family to having now troubles, put me in that, being responsible at the age of 14 when I was much younger. So I think so many factors come into play, right? But I have always been at the extreme end of being an optimistic, of optimism. I don't say negative. Actually, I'm reminded by the negatives. But I just see them as distractions, But on the other side, I'm also rational. I'm a logical thinker. So sometimes I struggle with a lot of, emotional, situations, because I think also that's why naturally it's easier for me to practice law, because I'm moved by reason and reality. However, being optimistic, for me, it's so deep that maybe sometimes you don't. The first thing that would come to mind is not the reality. But I think having the logical thinking or mindset has helped in one way or the other to balance. So according to Mark, this is me seeing myself from a friend for over a decade. Someone who knows me, who has seen me, especially in the business world. I have now sort of balanced up. So which means I have now become a bit more pragmatic, meaning that I am looking a bit more into the reality, into the practicability, right, of the action end of things, of what it will take, right, to achieve, or rather to execute. And I've actually thought about, because when you're in it, when you're living in the moment, you sort of don't realize. Like I read somewhere, or rather I was watching some movies a while back, and someone was saying, even the fish don't realize they live in water, right? Maybe that's another topic, because they're in it. So I'm like, okay, because Mark is a person that knows me very well, like, if my friend is saying this, so basically, it meant that I have now actually moved to 90. I am looking at what it will take in terms of action. Okay. Not just looking at, I need to go to point B, A, B, from point A to point B, period. Like, okay. So for me, I think it's because, again, like I said, I'm a logical thinker, and then having gone through failures and challenges and success and all that, typically, like for an Afrik, it's been almost 10 years, but it's still a startup. I've never given up, right? So I'm like, okay. Past, maybe for me, it's the experience over the last, 10 years now. As they say, it takes 10,000 hours doing the same thing to become a master at it, maybe. But perhaps if I was maybe more pragmatic than optimistic, maybe I could have taken slightly shorter period. However, on the downside of on the left, the extreme right of the clock is the pessimistic mind, right? These are the characters who see an impossibility in every possibility. They see a negativity in every positivity. Like it's a defeatist mindset. Before thinking of what's possible, it's a question of what's impossible. Now, you don't want to be there. So in our conversation now, we asked ourselves, okay, so what does that really, how is that like applicable, in a day-to-day sense? Like, where do I need to be? And that's the question for you. So in my view, I think you really need to be close to the pragmatic clock. That's the 90. But I still, Mark believes you need to be right at 90. As I was thinking more about it, I think, 60, 70 is okay. In the sense that I think in life, I'm given the difficult of life, which doesn't have to be by that way. But that's the reality, right? It's so hard, okay, to get anything that actually is tangible into reality, right? Whether it's a business, whether it's raising children, whether it's achieving education, whether it's delivering on a key task. So, in the hardship that it is, you really have to, I think, you really have to be at the extreme end of optimism, because that, I think, is the only guarantee of motivation you'll have for your mindset, if you ask me. Because it can be tough, especially for an entrepreneur. I've lived that journey, you know. And if you're not optimistic, I don't even know how we can go through and still, you know, keep strong. It's, I think, the same way if you are going through a health, you know, experience. You imagine being able to beat that disease. If you think too much about reality, because the reality would be you're sick. Maybe it's a chronic disease, you know, you're dying of cancer or something like that, you know. But the optimistic mindset would push you through from where I stand. Because it could be the only thing that you have. Because at the end of the day, you have your mind to yourself, right? So I think that you need to be able to remain extremely optimistic, but tap into the reality in terms of being pragmatic, like being being aware of what it would take, you know, to deliver that business, to beat that sickness, to achieve, you know, that goal. Because again, if you think too much, if you just stick exclusively on what it would take, to a good extent, you know, you might, I think, you might slump into pessimistic, because the blocks could be too many, and then you disorient yourself, you know. Now you cross the dark side of an impossibility in every possibility. However, you can't be blindly positive, you know. And I think that's what I've learned over the years. I usually want to use this example. I think an entrepreneur or anyone trying to deliver or to make anything happen of substance, because the world doesn't care. You know, if you speak of this dream, being an artist, if you don't make it happen, if you don't succeed, it will be another dead body in your head screaming at you, because you didn't bring it to the world. Unfortunately, the world wouldn't care, because you didn't make this thing a success, so you didn't bring it to life. Now, in many cases, actually, you would even bring that, you know, that dream to reality, bring it to life. But still, if it's a terrible user experience, you know, if it's a terrible product, we consumers, we shall criticize, you know. If your art is bad, too bad. Yes, you know, we understand that you made the best effort. But we have a choice. We deserve the best, and that's human nature. Now, going back to my example I mentioned earlier that I usually want to use when I speak of entrepreneurship. I think an entrepreneur needs to have a mindset of a baby. Like, think of a toddler, a child. Okay? But balance that up with the reality. That's the pragmatic mind. Just to give a practical example, so naturally, I think 99 out of 100, if a child crawls to a road, public road, right, a busy road, 99.9% of the time, traffic will stop. People will get out of their cars and they will run to even like save this child, take the child out of, the danger, right? But perhaps that child, their motivation is, the child is seeing that there's a fruit, or there's a dog across the road. That's the point B. The only thing that they are focused on is that they want to go for the sweet, for the dog, right? And that's what they see, and that's it. And that's the 100% optimistic mindset. The child will not think of maybe the variables, They could be a drunk driver, right? Who wouldn't even see me, hit me, right? The road could be too hot, in the crawling. Maybe the tarmac could be too rough, There could be an animal that probably will attack them. They don't care. They don't even think about that. But their motivation is what's on the other side of the road. Maybe even they're just seeing. Maybe even it's on the other side. It's a waterbed. They're seeing a beautiful, ocean. Not knowing that once I cross, I'm drowning. Or maybe it's a ditch. Now, I think for me, that's a typical example of a purely optimistic mindset. But you need that. You need to have that mindset to go for anything. So you need to have 100% optimistic mindset to go for your goal. However, the only difference is that along the way, if you're able to balance that up with the pragmatic mind, knowing that, okay, I want to maintain, my goal is B, right? Across the road is B. And you ask yourself, okay, what would it take? By tapping into the pragmatic mindset, right? Into understanding the variables, how the flow of traffic, right? Speeding cars, all those things that a child would not think of, and plan on how to cross, this road, minimizing the risk. So, of course, it sounds so simplistic, right? Because, again, it sounds obvious. But if you come think of it, I think the hardest part would be you maintaining 100% optimism. Like, how do you stay motivated? Having the knowledge or the awareness of what it would take, right? So that would take you keeping 100% the mindset of an optimistic mindset, but alive to the reality. So I think the person who would win eventually, it could take years, would be one that would maintain that 100% optimistic mindset, being a pragmatic, that is being aware of what it takes and the dangers, but strong enough, okay, not to be delusional, not to be driven down into pessimism. So now you start seeing impossibilities. How? It's for it to figure out, you know. It could mean staying fit, exercising. It could mean ensuring that you take care of your health, learning, developing yourself knowledge-wise, having the right people around you. So many variables. But I think at the end of the day, if you're able to stay focused, stay motivated, living in the moment of whatever it takes, experiencing the difficulty of what it takes, being aware enough of the dangers, having stepped into the pragmatic mindset and the risks involved, but staying optimistic enough that you don't give up, that you don't get demotivated, that you don't lose focus. That's a bigger challenge. That's a mountain to climb. Personally, I think, I won't say I'm lucky, but I think that nothing can stop me. It can take time, but that goal is always in my mind. And I think there are so many people out there. Of course, if you're extremely optimistic, like I said, maybe sometimes difficult, right? To deliver, to make things happen faster. But they will happen. However, if you're extremely optimistic, then you have to learn how you can bring pragmatic mindset into your day-to-day. But again, if you're also extremely pragmatic, then you tap into, the left side, the optimistic, because you need to get that as well. The pessimistic, again, I think you'll probably close in there, especially being aware, of the roadblocks. Because once you are pragmatic enough, right, you will see the pessimistic element that will get you into that. So you will be aware. Now the question is how to stay focused in the midst of challenges. Stay focused and motivated. In the middle of all those challenges. So I guess, for me, that's a very interesting conversation. That's reality as it is. We can figure it out. You need to, sit down with yourself, think about your clock, think about your Where are you in the reality protractor? Are you in the middle? Are you at the extreme left? Are you at the extreme right? Are you between right and middle? Are you between left and middle? That's for you to figure out. And I'd really love to hear, thoughts. If there's anything that you find relatable, let's give feedback. Let me know. And by the way, as you can see, I have a collared t-shirt, polo t-shirt on. I'm trying to experiment, because this is symbolic to the switch from serve to surf, change of title. It's a one-off, but also it's a test. I was thinking that perhaps I could, because I love collar polo t-shirts, and maybe because also it speaks into casual, smart, being a lawyer and all that. So let me know if you think that I should adopt this design as opposed to plain t-shirt. Then that will be it. So, as always, it's a pleasure. I personally get motivated spending time sharing, I come back to these videos actually equally for motivation, and it's never a boring day. So if you find this video, this episode relatable, or if you know someone who might benefit from it, please share. I know today this one is a bit longer, but like I said, I don't plan, I don't think about the topics. I let things happen. I let myself flow. I share experiences as and when, they come. And it would mean the world to me if you shared, if you commented. It's mind-blowing, by the way, because majority of the people that I meet that have actually watched, this channel, that have listened to my content, like, man, he's great. But then it's not growing as fast, because for me the motivation for growth is be able to reach as many people as we can. If you find a message, like, you super love it, but are you sharing? Is it too good that you want to keep it to yourself? That would be selfish. Don't be selfish, man. Because sharing is caring. I truly believe that people need to, sometimes they need to be motivated, sometimes they need to be inspired. It's tough, as it were. So, without further ado, I really always, as always, feel motivated and appreciate, like I said, if there's that one person who takes their time and finds this message of use, my purpose is served. I'm happy. I don't take, that for granted. And it's always a pleasure. So, as always, kwaheri. Bye-bye. Mungu abariki. God bless you. Mungu abariki Africa. God bless Africa. Reach it out.